Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? NFL trade deadline came and went this week, and I was a little interested to see what the Saints might do. Our focus here was more so around what might happen with Jameis Winston because of the Kirk Cousins injury. Might the Vikings have interest in Jameis? Might the Saints actually be looking to move him? Well, that didn't happen. Mickey Loomis was on Saints Hour, which is weekly with Mike Hoss, the voice of the Saints on WWL, which is the flagship of the New Orleans Saints. And Loomis did acknowledge the Saints were actually interested in being buyers at the trade deadline.
Well, we talked to a couple teams about a couple of things, more in the acquisition area as opposed to trading somebody. We didn't really talk about trading anyone from our team, but we did talk to a couple teams about an acquisition, but I wouldn't say it ever got really serious.
Interestingly, one of those names is being reported by Ian Rappaport of course, NFL Media, and that's a former car teammate in Las Vegas, Hunter Renfrow.
I didn't get the sense any trade was going to happen. The only one I thought might happen was Hunter Renfrow going to the Saints. There's just so much contractual stuff that they had to work out. Who was going to pay his salary? Didn't get it done by yesterday. Just in the end, just did not end up happening.
And of course, the Raiders today fired their head coach and their general manager. So when did that happen in Las Vegas, and who actually had autonomy to make that deal? Had they wanted to make the deal, I don't know. But as a result of this knowledge, which I think we all would agree that Ian Rappaport is very credible. I don't think that there's any reason to doubt that report that there was at least interest, if nothing else. What I think it tells us is the organizational direction that the Saints have right now. One more from Mickey Loomis about, this was him sort of explaining how they decide what goes into making a decision on a trade.
I think a lot of it is determined by, how you see the season playing out. And then you look at your roster and the team, the guys that are coming up as free agents, and whether, what's your opportunity to re-sign them. There's a lot of factors that go into making a decision on trading a player. And then on the other side of that, it's say who can help us now, accomplish our short-term goals, or in some cases, you want an opportunity to have a player in your system and make a decision on having them for the long term.
Okay. When I first saw the news that the Saints were interested in acquiring Hunter Renfrow, it was an immediate confirmation to me that the Saints are still all in. They're all in to win right now, which is not surprising. It shouldn't be surprising. This is their organizational ethos. They have a $150 million investment in Derek Carr that they are trying to get a return on. And as much as you and I and everyone else may scream to the high heavens about how bad of a coach Dennis Allen is, how bad of an OC Pete Carmichael is, how average a quarterback Derek Carr is, the Saints don't feel that. The Saints organizationally don't believe that. We are swimming collectively downstream, and they are collectively, as an organization, swimming upstream against the current and against the tide of public opinion. Let's first ask the question, why Hunter Renfrow? Okay. Hunter Renfrow has a $13 million cap hit this year with the Raiders. So you're talking about a guy that is not a cheap player. Hunter Renfrow, again, a $13 million cap hit this year. Next year, again, he's under contract next season. Well, the Raiders can't off-ramp from his deal this year, but he's under contract next year as well for $13.7 million. So if the Saints traded for Renfrow, they'd be giving up an asset to get a player that has a big cap number this year and carries a $13.7 million cap number next year. Okay, so you're trading an asset to get a player who, by the way, is going to be 28 years old in December. Not that that's old. Not that Renfrow being 28 is old. But Hunter Renfrow has seen a dramatic decline in his production the last 2 years from what he was 3 seasons ago, where I guess 2 seasons ago, where he was a 1,000-yard receiver. In 2021 in Las Vegas, he caught 103 passes for 1,038 yards. Had a big year. That was his 3rd year in the league. He went from that 1,000-yard season to last year catching 36 passes for 330 yards. And so far this year, he's got just 10 receptions for 92 yards. He's disappeared. And I understand. You got Devontae Adams there. Renfrow only played in 10 games a season ago as well. But all that to say, you have a player that's that's almost 28 years old, that's on a really big contract, that over the last 2 seasons has seen his production and availability plummet. Why in the world would you give up an asset for that player, first and foremost? Also, why would you give up an asset for that player at that position where the Saints have talent and depth and money and draft capital invested in their receiving room? And oh, by the way, Rashid Shaheed, who I think you'd like to pay, is an exclusive rights free agent this offseason. So the Saints are very likely going to, and I think we would all agree it would be a good idea, if the Saints invest in Rashid Shaheed this offseason. Look at the future of the wide receiver position in New Orleans. Michael Thomas, he's under contract for another year in 24 at $10.2 million. You don't have to remember all the numbers, but that's a big number. By the way, his dead number is $21.9 million, meaning if Michael Thomas is on your team next year, he costs you $10 million. If Michael Thomas is not on your team next year, he costs you $21.9 million. So Michael Thomas ain't going nowhere. He's going to be on your team next year. Chris Olave, you've invested the 11th overall pick in Chris Olave. He was really good a year ago. I think we all agree has the potential to be a really good receiver in the NFL. And if you pick up his 5th-year option, you have him under contract through 2026. So 3 more years after this one. And then we just mentioned Rashid Shaheed, who's an exclusive rights free agent, who you're going to re-sign after this season. So your top 3 guys are all back next year. And if you were to trade for Renfrow, at best he's your number 4, and you'd be paying him $13 million and giving up an asset for the right to pay him $13 million? It doesn't make sense. And oh, by the way, you've also got A.T. Perry on your roster, who used a draft pick on this year. Keith Kirkwood, Lynn Bowden hanging around. And even if Renfrow replaced one of them, fine. But how much value are you really going to get out of your 4th wide receiver? And we're all screaming, hey, you paid Juwan Johnson. Where's that guy been? And I know he's a tight end, but he's still a pass catcher, and there's only so many targets to go around. So it doesn't make sense to make a deal for a wide receiver, except for one reason and one reason only. This is Derek Carr's guy. And with all of the capital you have invested in the receiver position, money, draft capital, all of it, it pales in comparison to the $150 million and minimum 3 years you have invested in Derek Carr. So as much as we look at Michael Thomas and go, yeah, it's a big number for next year, as much as we look at Olave and say, yeah, that was the 11th overall pick, and as much as we look at Shaheed and say, exclusive rights, you're going to have to pay him this offseason, all of that combined pales in comparison to the $150 million commitment you made to Derek Carr to be your franchise. So the Saints are looking at this going, we have got to get a return on that investment above all else. And if Hunter Renfrow is Derek Carr's guy, and instead of having Carr screaming at the 11th overall pick for giving up on a route or having one doink off his helmet and missing a walk-in touchdown, and instead he's got great synergy with this guy who will elevate the quarterback we've invested $150 million in, then you do it. That's the mindset of the organization. Mickey Loomis told you. When you play the first one again from Loomis, Muse, this was Mickey Loomis again on Saints Hour on Tuesday night when asked about what mindset are you in whenever you're, I can't find the exact, however he said it exactly. No, it's the second one. I'm sorry. What goes into making a decision on a trade?
A lot of it is determined by, how you see the season playing out.
That's it.
And
a lot of it's determined by how you see the season playing out. Well, the Saints are still in perpetual win now mode. They are not at all thinking, hey, let's gather assets for the future. They're thinking, what can we do to get a return on this $150 million investment we made in Derek Carr? That's it. Because it is nonsensical in any other checklist box to do a deal for Hunter Renfrow, to even be interested in doing a deal for Hunter Renfrow, except that you think that player can elevate your most important asset. Whoo, boy. They better go beat the Bears, bro. I tell you what, if this team, after all of this, goes and lays an egg against the Bears and a rookie quarterback from a Division II school on Sunday in the Dome, oh my God, the melt. Can you imagine the melt here on Monday? Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.